Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Trinity Club of Hartford Speaker Series. I am Carmen Leslie Rourke, and it is an honor to be the president of the club. Tonight's event is Navigating the Challenges of Career Transition. The club is a group of dedicated alumni residing in the Hartford area, as well as parents and friends of Trinity College. We provide scholarships and events and keep alumni connected to the college, Hartford, and to each other. I would like to introduce Matt Smith, class of 82, a member of the executive committee, and he is the chair of the speaker series. His family's Trinity legacy runs deep. His father, Dave Smith, a member of the class of 52, and his mom received her master's degree from Trinity. 5 of Matt's 8 siblings went to Trinity, as well as a number of members from his extended family. Matt met his wife, Ellen Carpenter Smith, also from the class of 82, and their daughter, Diana, graduated in 2019. Matt will now begin our programming this evening.
Great, thank you, Carmen, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Our talk will be followed by a question and answer session, so please type your questions into the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. The Trinity Club of Hartford Speaker Series is dedicated to informing and educating members of the Trinity College community about issues central to Trinity's vitality. The objective of this series is to provide an honest view of an issue from an informed perspective. Tonight, we'll discuss the challenges of navigating career transition and the services Trinity College offers alumni to support them during the transition. 21st century society is increasingly driven by advances in technology that fuel change, and even more change. The possibility of working for one company during a career has dropped to practically zero in the past 25 years. And the possibility of working in one profession has declined significantly in the last 10 years. This is due to technology and innovation evolving the economy's demand for skilled professionals, and it is projected that 1/3 of the positions today's Trinity students will hold in the next 10 years do not currently exist. This seems to indicate that today's Trinity alumni may have 2 to 3 careers during their working life. This can make career management seem even more complex than ever before. Paul Gagnon, Trinity Masters 2001 and Trinity College's alumni career consultant, is with us tonight to present how his services help guide and support Trinity alumni as they navigate the challenges of career transition. Paul's career is really 4 careers. After earning his Bachelor of Science degree in Plant and Soil Science at the University of Massachusetts, Paul worked in the golf industry as a greenskeeper and golf pro. He participated in the Peace Corps and then earned his MBA at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. This led to strategic planning, mergers and acquisitions, new business development, and product marketing work at 3 Fortune 500 agribusinesses, food, and agrigenetics businesses. Paul then pivoted to management consulting work, advising government officials and small business owners. This led to roles in higher education, designing and teaching college courses in entrepreneurship and business management. This breadth of experience from multiple careers led Paul to the University of Connecticut, where he was career counselor at the Master of Science program in Business Analytics and Program Management. Paul is now the alumni career consultant at Trinity. With that introduction, I'd like to invite Paul to begin his presentation, and please type any questions into the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. Paul, a career transition can be thrilling and daunting an undertaking. How do your services support alumni in career transition to for the best possible outcome?
Matt, thank you very much for that kind and gracious introduction. I feel like Keegan Bradley just being teed up there for the first shot of the day. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yes. So, the whole transition or the whole topic of career management today is so very different than it was even 10 years ago, and even in a post-pandemic era. And tonight we're going to talk about a number of topics And if we can go to the next slide, we will see that we're going to be moving through a little bit of discussion about what it is that I do as an alumni career, or as the alumni career coach at Trinity, addressing Matt's question. I'm going to talk about what it's like to be searching for a new career opportunity in 2023, and the methods and the tools, specifically some things that we refer to in acronym style, ATS and AI, and how we synthesize our skills that lead to accomplishments, because this is what hiring managers really want to understand, and with context, when we apply for a position. And then the need for constant upskilling and certification finding and certification management, that is, becoming skilled in new things on a regular basis. In other words, the half-life of what we learned in school, or even 2, 3, 4 years ago, is shrinking. And so we have to be staying current. And then we'll do a quick recap, and then just a call for support, so that we can broadcast far and wide the alumni career coaching service throughout the Trinity alumni community. So as the alumni career coach at Trinity, and I've been at this for about 1.5 years. Go ahead, next slide, thank you. This is a joint program between the alumni office and or the Office of Alumni Relations and the Career and Life Design Center at Trinity. And essentially, we're providing mechanisms that support student to alumni and alumni interaction, where we're building out the professional and career management support for alumni. We are providing additional mechanisms to help alumni further understand how they can use their Trinity education and the experiences that they've gained along the way in their careers to potentially pivot into a new occupation, a new industry, and things like that. And we also do it to augment our institutional competitive advantage, because as I'll discuss in just a moment, this is something that we don't see going on at every NESCAC school. That is the alumni career coaching offering. And so as we move to the next slide, so in keeping with Matt's question, what is it that we do in a nutshell? Well, largely it's one-on-one career coaching. And I work with alumni on an individual basis, and they reach me through Trinity College's online platform, and that's called Handshake. And this is a tool that, beyond setting up appointments with me, there are a number of career development resources that Trinity makes available for free to alumni behind the Handshake firewall, including upskilling with getting more certifications through LinkedIn Learning. And then probably most importantly, the Bantam Career Network, where there are really over 4,000 registrants on that network. And essentially what it is Trinity's own private LinkedIn system. Only members that belong to the Trinity community have access to this network. And so it's very powerful in terms of being able to reach out on an alumni to alumni basis to seek and develop professional relationships, professional mentorships. But it's also very important from an alumni student perspective, where students can reach out to alumni for career advice and even potential job leads. So I offer a range of career coaching appointment topics. And as we can see from the next slide, the engagement has been quite dramatic over the course of the last 1.5 years. In 2022, we had 108 appointments. versus roughly 68 in 2021. And this year, with some enhanced outreach and promotional work throughout the Trinity community, we've had about a 250% increase in appointments during the first half of 2023 versus 2022. In fact, we're almost at the total number of appointments that we had all of last year for the first half of this year. So the service is catching on, because some of the things that we do is we help alumni think through and clarify their career goals. We help hone resumes and prepare for potential interviews. We help with networking and developing their LinkedIn profile if it's not really up to a level where the individual feels comfortable and confident about that online presence. And then we support the process of alumni that want to apply to professional and or graduate schools, law school, business school, PhD programs. I help the alumni write their essays. I help them hone their interview skills when they go for their on-campus interviews, and working just around all the components of applying to a graduate program. So those are just some of the things that we do. I mean, I'll also work closely with alumni when they're in the midst of negotiating their offers. If they have multiple offers or if they have an offer, how do we think through the strategic communications with the companies or the organizations that are making the offers, and how do we help the alum manage and navigate that process? So we're kind of on board throughout the entire effort of managing that career transition or the career pivot, or just even launching for recent alumni. Sometimes the recent alumni don't even have a resume yet. And so we'll be starting right from scratch in developing those application materials, resume, cover letter, reference lists, things of that nature. So as we go on to the next slide, this is important, I think, from an institutional perspective, but relative to other NESCAC schools, only 5 out of the, or besides Trinity, only 5 out of the other NESCAC schools expressly state that they offer any kind of alumni coaching, career coaching, because this is a service that is more often associated with very large institutions like University of Pennsylvania and UConn, for instance. So this is something that Trinity is able to help augment the recruiting process. And it's also something that helps alumni in some way stay more firmly connected to the institution after they graduate from their baccalaureate program. So as we move on to the next slide, we're going to start getting into more of the nitty-gritties here as far as the career search and the career transition process. As Matt mentioned, there have been profound shifts in the process, approach, method, and the follow-up of career search. The modern career search is far different. And it's far different today from both the employer and the applicant perspective. Employers are embracing what are called application tracking systems and artificial intelligence. Application tracking systems are the software tools like Taleo or Talentfy that you see when you go to their HR page and you look to apply to a position. Up in the URL box, you will see Taleo, for instance. That is the software that is collecting and assessing the resume as the application hits the firm's computer system, and it's scoring it. It's using artificial intelligence and algorithms to match the resume that's been submitted for alignment with the job that has been posted. And this is largely because there are so many people that are applying for specific roles. There's no way that a person on the human resources side of a company could possibly digest all those documents. And so computers and systems and algorithms are now doing that initial work. And so everything is virtual. You know, as I like to say to the people that I work with, it's virtual this and it's virtual that. And if you're not playing the game according to those rules, you're going to have a hard time cracking the career transition and the pivoting process. So the other thing from the employer's perspective is that it's a very long interview cycle. Individuals today, it's not uncommon to go through 3, 4, 5, 6 rounds of interviews, meeting 12 to 15 different people, having writing assessments, having work style assessments, just to see if you're going to be a good fit. So this process can take weeks, if not months, to go through that. And on the applicant side, the ATS is looking for compliancy on the resume that you're submitting. And so it's no longer cool to have a really catchy resume. Simple fonts, simple text, simple spacing. Those are the tools that make a resume compliant. And it can't have margins that are too small. Otherwise, it can be cut off by the application tracking system. You can't have embedded tables. You can't have embedded graphics because the application tracking system might reject the document completely, and you wouldn't even know that your application had been jettisoned because the system will not give you a heads up. So it will be like you never even knew that you didn't apply. So understanding all these nuances are extremely important. And alignment, matching, and aligning with the job description is really crucial, but it has to be done with context. In other words, you can't just have a list of skills on your resume. It has to be written in such a way that you describe how the skills that you used contributed to or led to specific and quantifiable accomplishments, because this is what the application tracking systems are trying to assess and read. And then following the application instructions. If it says a cover letter is optional, then you submit one. If it says a cover letter needs to be submitted, you absolutely submit it. Because if you don't, once again, the compliant aspect of the application tracking system will jettison your application for non-compliance. So the process has really forced individuals to be patient, persistent, and always having reasoned outreach on the networking effort while you're applying. In other words, if you're not simultaneously applying and using LinkedIn, using the Bantam Career Network, finding a way to identify someone within the organization to help be an advocate for you in your application, you're really kind of wasting your time. These two things need to be done in tandem in order to make headway in the modern career search effort. So as we move on to the next slide, some of the application efforts that have to be attended to: resume writing, as I mentioned earlier about compliancy with application tracking systems. A number of tools exist like Jobalytics, VMock, Resume Worded Pro, and these are all free. And these are all AI-based tools that let the applicant match the job that they're applying for with the resume they want to use. And they can sort of get an advanced assessment of their resume for that particular job. And
And
then,
Paul,
yes,
sorry to interrupt, but we do have a question related to this.
yes.
So Michael Gilman has been kind enough to ask, do you help ensure resumes are compliant with ATS requirements?
Yes, and that's one of the things where we use these tools to do exactly that. Like the one that I like the best is a Chrome extension, and it's called Jobalytics. And what I will do is I will work with the alum and have them take their resume, install Jobalytics, take the job that they want to apply for, and then you load both the resume and the job description into the Jobalytics tool. And it essentially functions as a practice application tracking system assessment. So, and it will tell you where you are off or where you are not aligning as well as you should be. So you're kind of getting an advance notice, if you will, on the alignment of your resume for that job that you're thinking of applying to.
And then, Paul, along those lines, just a tool like ATS, is there any idea of how often they update their software to make sure that, the services you're providing are staying current with their new algorithm, as an example?
Yeah, this is like, there's always this process of staying one step ahead, if you will, with the technology. And so this is something that I am attending webinars and workshops on application tracking systems and AI, I would say on a monthly basis, just trying to stay abreast of what is transpiring and what is taking place with respect to these particular software services or these software platforms. Because as the questioner points out, these things are evolving all the time. And so it's something that I know I have to constantly be trying to stay current with as recent information as I possibly can be, so that when I'm working with the alumni, I'm able to provide them with the best possible insights that I can.
Mhm.
Yeah, because the companies are constantly, the service providers that provide these tools, like Taleo, for instance, as an example, or Oracle has got a large platform that functions in this application tracking system world. They're always adding bells and whistles to it. And so it's the sort of thing that it's something that is really paramount for someone like me to stay on top of that.
Mhm. Very good. No,
Is that okay?
yeah, I was going to say we do have another question.
Yeah.
Does Trinity offer discounts on any of the resume job matching tools, and would it be possible to receive a list? It is my understanding that each employer uses their own settings within an ATS, and that there is more than one which an employer could be using.
Yeah, that's where it gets really difficult in terms of being able to split the hair that finely. The tools that I mentioned here this evening, Jobalytics is free. VMock is a tool where you get, I think, 20 practice assessments per month if you use VMock. And Resume Worded Pro is another ATS practice tool that is also sort of partially free, where you get so many free per month. So, and I like Jobalytics the best, but I've used, all three, and I will oftentimes encourage alumni with more complex resumes to use all three, to just see the variations that are popping up in the assessments that they're getting from each one, because each one may give you different feedback. And so you can take, like a composite of that feedback in order to best shape your resume.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. And along those lines, Mary Robleski. Mary, I hope I got the pronunciation correct. She does ask, she, in her work in pharmaceuticals, their organization is hiring. She'd like to know how she can refer younger Trinity alumni to this service. And I know you probably have a slide on that coming up, but I just wanted to let you know that that interest is there.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Mary. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I mean, at the end, I will have my contact information. And so we'll be hopefully that will hit the target for you.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So, you know, the other thing that has become omnipresent within the career search effort are all of the job boards that exist out there today. And I encourage the alumni to scour them all. LinkedIn, jobs, levels.fyi, Terradu, Indeed, Idealist, Simplify, Ripple Match, Going Global, Interstride, Monster. And then if there are more very recent alumni out there this evening, Handshake is a wonderful platform for because that's the sweet spot for the Handshake job listings are the rising seniors and graduating seniors and recent alumni. And then on the networking and social capital, besides Bantam Career Network, the LinkedIn alumni tool on the Trinity College LinkedIn site with about 25,000 registered users is a potentially very powerful tool. And you want to know how to use it properly and correctly, but this is a place where you're able to reach out to many thousands potentially. Of course, you want to be judicious and you want to be reasoned in your outreach efforts, but it's a really great spot. And then there are other social media, we read about Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. My preference, of course, is LinkedIn and the Bantam Career Network. But another really handy tool is called MailScoop. This is a little platform that lets you search for emails for people that you may not be able to find their email. It lets you do it's sort of like finding a person's phone number, but in this way, it's finding their email. This is their professional email. And so this is a really handy tool. And once again, like the Jobalytics, it's partially free where you get so many per month. On the interviewing front, as I said, this has become really daunting, the interview process today. And so we have tools like Big Interview where you can practice on your own by recording your answers, prompting the interview platform with questions that you'd want to address during an interview, and then even using ChatGPT to post a job description in ChatGPT, and then you enter the query, what kinds of questions might I be asked in an interview for this job? And then you can flip it around, and with the same job description in ChatGPT, you can ask the question, what kinds of questions should I ask in an interview for this job? And, it gives what I call some thought traction, because sometimes people have a hard time really getting to understand what it is they should ask in a particular job interview, or how do they even start to crack open the door in order to prepare. And then lastly, I offer practice interviewing with alumni where I will go through a process, we'll do practice, we'll do mock interviewing, or we'll just have a general discussion about prepping. And then the whole recommendations area now, this has changed dramatically. Letters of reference and recommendations is kind of old school. Nowadays, it's the recommendation that you post on LinkedIn from your former supervisor, a colleague, a supplier, a customer. These are very brief, maybe a paragraph long, but it's someone that can attest to your work, and you post, and it gets posted right in your LinkedIn profile. So these are things that recruiters and prospective hiring managers read. So these are very important things that have helped change the landscape of applying for positions. So as we go to the next slide, in terms of the ATS and AI, as I had mentioned, there's just this quantum transformation that is influencing the career search process. And at the basic level, if you don't pass the ATS screen when you're applying for a job, then it's unlikely you're going to get an interview. And so applicants have to counter by using the technology as we've described to help them apply. So, you know, we have to kind of fight fire with fire here in order to make headway, which leads to the next slide about what we really want to focus on when we're applying for a position is the synthesis of our skills that have led us to accomplish things. So the key for a successful career search is not making a list of the tasks that we performed, but in identifying and accentuating how we develop skills that created results. And the way that we articulate those results is by using the STAR technique when we're in the interview. And for those of you that aren't clear on the STAR, it's another acronym that's described as situation, task, action, result. And it's generally used for behavioral questions, those questions that you can identify right off the bat in that they start with, please, can you tell me about a time when? And that's a behavioral based question. When you had conflict with someone, how did you resolve it? And so you want to shape your answer in about a 1 to 1.5 minute story using the STAR technique to articulate the skills that you use to create an action plan that led to results. The other thing that is important is that you want to be able to identify and meet up with individuals who you've carefully identified to have what we call informational interviews. Now, this is an old school technique going back to Richard Bowles, what color is your parachute days, where this is a tried and true technique where, you know, you're asking questions of carefully identified individuals that might be able to help serve as a reference for a job or provide a referral on to speak to someone else. And what's really vital, though, is to not necessarily harvest this social capital, but to plant the seeds as you're going along the way by reciprocating to use your social capital to the benefit of others. In other words, when someone reaches out to you for an informational interview or for a potential referral, stay open-minded and try to reciprocate as best you can. So as we move on to one of the, I believe, what is the last official slide, the certifications and upskilling. This is something that has really been supercharged post-pandemic. And we have to be persistent and thoughtful about upskilling to gain new knowledge, skills, abilities through certifications. Employers really prize this effort when they see this on the LinkedIn profile of an individual or on a resume, because it shows the work ethic and it shows a capacity to absorb and master new material, usually with time constraints because certifications have time limits. And there's usually an objective test or an assessment that takes place as part of the certification process. So there's less potential for a inflated grade, if you will, through a college class or a graduate class or something like that. The certifications are really prized by employers. And you can get these certifications through LinkedIn Learning, of which Trinity offers for free behind the handshake firewall. So many courses that you can take for free and gain certification in. Coursera, Udemy, DataCamp, And of course, there are so many online programs in colleges and universities across the world that you can participate in, many for free. So the thing to remember, though, is that after you complete a successful certification, use it, announce it, post it, share it on your LinkedIn profile, get it on your resume, that sort of thing. Because if it's, if you're keeping it in the closet, it's not going to really be helping to enhance your storytelling effort as you articulate your skills and capabilities. So I think I have reached the last official slide, and I just want to recap here where, as we have said, there have been profound changes affecting the career search process during and especially post-pandemic. And it requires a simultaneous and persistent update of your application materials, keyword job searching in some of the platforms that we mentioned, and ATS compliance using the ATS practice tools that we talked about, networking, informational outreach, and utilizing your social capital to build relationships and extend your network, applying to roles on a regular and consistent basis, and then follow up, utilizing tools like the survey, or excuse me, the email survey tool that I mentioned earlier, where you can try to reach out to potentially hiring managers that not everybody is going to be able to get that pathway. Maybe they'll get bombarded with LinkedIn messages, but if you can find their email and send them a direct email, you're going to have a better chance of getting a response from that individual. And then finally, not to toot our own horn here, but work with a career coach or a career specialist to at least help you gain some thought traction, because this can be a daunting effort to transition or pivot or even find a new position if you should find yourself out of work or wanting to move on to graduate school.
So Paul, just could you define thought traction?
Oh, sure. When I say thought traction, I use that in a loose way, but sometimes, I'm working with individuals that have a 5-page resume when one has to do, or 2 at most. And it's like, oh my gosh, how do I begin to consolidate and think through what is important, what is relevant, what's germane, what should I cut out? What should I augment? All of these little questions that sometimes people have trouble getting traction on. And then on the interview process, as I mentioned about using ChatGPT, I cannot tell you how many people I've worked with that don't know what questions they should ask of the interviewers. They really are at a loss. And so I will work with people to start analyzing and sort of breaking down the job description, the company, the department that they might be going to, or that they've applied to work in, looking at the LinkedIn profiles of the people that they're going to be interviewing with, and just sort of stepping back and assessing, okay, how do I thoughtfully go about approaching developing insightful interview questions to ask in an interview. So those are a couple of examples of thought traction that I hope are helpful in trying to describe that.
No, fantastic. No, that's very helpful. We have Alexandra Benjamin asking, how do we access the free LinkedIn learning?
Yes. Okay. So if you are not currently having access to the Handshake platform on the Trinity College website, it's a 2-step process. You want to go to the Handshake website at Trinity College. All you have to do is type in the URL box in Google, Trinity College Handshake, and it'll take you to that. And you would want to try to log in as an alum. And, there's a spot for that on that website. And what it will ask you to do is put in your non-Trinity, your email that you want to use, your personal email, let's say, and then it's going to send a message to the Trinity Career and Life Design Center staff asking for, you're going to be asking for permission to be able to join the handshake system. Once that gets approved, you are then able to now log back into the handshake system for use. You would go into the career services icon once you log into Handshake, and then in the career services section, there's a resources button. When you click on the resources button, there's a list of about 35 different service offerings.
Wow.
And LinkedIn Learning is one of those many offerings that Trinity provides for career development training. I know that's a convoluted process, but if you'd like, just email me and I can send you the instructions. I'd be happy to do that.
Mm-hmm. No, that's fantastic. Now, Paul, you said you've got the end of the kind of the formal slides. Is one of these slides, does it have your contact information?
Yes, if we go to the Beyond This Evening, and as Mary pointed out, I would love any suggestions that we have from the audience that will help us continue to promote the alumni career coaching service throughout the Trinity College alumni community, because we have capacity to engage with more alumni in this effort. And there is my contact information. I am part-time and I am remote, but I kind of am always checking my emails and that sort of thing. And I also give my phone number and or my cell number to all the alumni that I work with in the event that they need me in a pinch. I was working with an alum a couple weeks ago, and we were on the phone, it seemed like every hour, because they were negotiating with 3 different companies for a final offer. And so, it was back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So it was quite fun. But anyways, this is how you can reach me. And, I do appreciate it.
Yeah, I was going to say, Paul, and just to give people an idea, obviously, given the traffic numbers that you talked about, there's, the demand for the services increased quite a bit. So what do you tend to commit to as far as a response time if someone either emails you or leaves you a phone mail?
I'm generally able to get back to folks within I'd say like within a day.
Okay. 24 hours. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, fantastic. So we're going to keep this slide on the screen so people can get your contact information. The question that I do have is I know obviously everyone's situation is different, but how would you say when you're working with a recent Trinity graduate, what do you find is the thing you're doing first with them, and how is it accessing the different steps that you have versus someone who's transitioning, someone who's been out for let's say 10 years and is going through career transition?
Yeah. Wow. That's an appointment all by itself, isn't it? Almost. Yeah. No, I mean, that's a great question. And let me tackle the recent alumni first. The recent alumni appointments, they vary considerably, but if the individual is just is looking to get a job, it really can start with doing a profile assessment of what their interests are, their work interests, their personal values, so that they get a little bit of a better read on maybe directionally where they want to go. Do they really want to work in a nonprofit? Or, maybe they did nonprofits for internships and they realize that they can't earn a living working in nonprofits sometimes, or they don't want to spend their whole career in a nonprofit environment. Although, that's not to say that in nonprofits, you can't make a really great career and a great living out of it. That's just an example that I'm using of some alumni of recent alumni that I've worked with. And so they're trying to pivot after maybe a year in a nonprofit environment into a for-profit organization. And so we're using little assessment tools and some exercises, if you will, that help them and help me provide them with some enhanced direction in terms of the organizations that they might want to start thinking about, the kinds of job description or the kind of job titles that they might want to start thinking about and looking at. So this is one of the things where having my background in industry, especially in mergers and acquisitions, I'm really familiar with a lot of industries and a lot of companies, actually deeply familiar. So I'm able to sort of give a lot of guidance on potentially where people can jump into in their search effort. So that's on the recent side. On the 10-year transition or 10 years out transition, I would say those are what I would call oftentimes more career pivots, where maybe someone has been in a profession and they want to leave the profession and go into a nonprofit environment. And what I try to work with them on there is in reimagining and recasting themselves in terms of how their values align with the mission of of organizations that they might want to work with. And so it's really more of an identification of the values, the mission, and the cultural fit of the organization that they might want to work with, as opposed to the occupation that they want to be in. So those are just a couple of general descriptions that I would say that I have found that kind of distinguish the recent alumni versus one that might be, let's say, 10 years out.
Okay, fabulous. We have another question from Juan Diego Lopez Rodriguez. Given what you're seeing, especially the evolution of the workplace and the marketplace for skills, what skills do you find are most in demand, and in what industries?
It's really amazing to me when, if I speak with recruiters or I'm talking with an HR person or a hiring manager, while technical skills might be the things that people want to showcase on their resume, so many people seem to not pay attention in the application process to the transferable skills, or what we in the past might have referred to as soft skills: leadership, problem solving, analytical, time management, organization, collaboration, teamwork, communication, interpersonal. Those are all skills that invariably you will find them littered throughout the job description and the job qualifications. And I will tell you that the ATS is picking up how you have described those skills and how you have generated results with those skills. It's not all about SQL and Python or Power BI or Excel or whatever the software of the day might be. Those transferable skills need to be integrated with those technical skills in order to elevate your visibility in the application process. So I don't know if that hits the mark on the question that was being posed, but it's the combination that unlocks the visibility from a hiring manager's perspective. And any time that you can quantify the accomplishment, that resonates with even greater vibrancy, because it provides an answer that gives an indication of scale that the individual has worked with.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fabulous. And in the spirit of providing a question asked, answered, and progress made, Alexandra Benjamin informs us, yes, she has found, thanks to your guidance, the free LinkedIn Learning. So just
Good. Okay.
The results are that fast, right?
Very good. Wow, that's just in time, isn't it? Right? That's
Sure.
just in time learning.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, fits our environment right now, that's for sure.
Yes.
So maybe this might be something that is, I mean, I know I certainly, I don't want to say suffered from it, but, when I was 21 and I was graduated from Trinity, people would ask me, so what you want to do? And, back in the day, you felt you had to have like, oh yeah, I've got my life figured out right now. I know exactly what I'm going into and what I'm going to do. When in fact, I was like, I've got no idea right now. So what if someone is engaging your services? You had mentioned there's a profile that's developed. What are the types of questions you find? And this actually would be apply to a more recent graduate as well as someone who could be 10 years out, in finding out what they really like to do, or what is going to be the foundational driver of what ultimately can lead to career transition.
Yeah, I mean, that's another great question. And as it happens, one of the tools that we do use is in that resources section within Handshake. It's called the online profiler, or it may be just called the interest profiler. It's a very brief tool. I don't think it takes more than a half an hour to complete, but some of the questions, like the questions tend to overlap. So the questions might seem like, oh, I just answered that, but they're asked in slightly different ways. And so it teases out from you a variety of your styles, your communication style, your work style, your personality, your values, the things that you treasure most in terms of the relationships that you have with people. And so those are the kinds of questions that I will probe on and work with very recent alumni that have absolutely no clue where they want to go, at this early stage in their career. And, questions like, which course of all the courses that you took at Trinity, which did you value the most and why? Of the professors or the instructors that you had at Trinity, which did you find the most compelling and why? From a learning perspective, in terms of what it is that you learned from that individual and in that class. And then a question like, of all the projects that are like non-test or non-quiz assignments, the projects that you worked on at Trinity, which one did you find that you couldn't put down? Which one did you find that just resonated with you so much that you really couldn't put it away? Sort of like reading a great novel. You just couldn't put it down. You wanted to finish it, but you never could quite finish it until it was due. Something like that. So these are just some of the things that I will do. And again, I hate to use that term thought traction, but it's another way that I try to tease out and develop some thought traction with the recent alumni that I work with.
Oh, fabulous. We have a question here from Jack Nelson. First, how would you rate the general efficiency, functionality of the hiring process and the general professionalism of human resources people in expediting the hiring process? And just the follow-on question to that is, what tips can you offer a candidate who's encountering roadblocks or non-responsiveness?
Yeah, this is ubiquitous today. I'm sorry to report, from my own experiences in working with students and alumni, that I think human resource specialists and talent acquisition people within organizations, they're doing what they can, but they're just inundated and they're overwhelmed. I mean, like, if you go to a LinkedIn job posting, sometimes you will see where over 1,000 people have applied,
Mm.
for that job. And believe it or not, the talent acquisition person will have their picture posted on that job posting, and they'll have the courage to say, message me. And so you can imagine just the kinds of communications that these folks are having to try to manage.
Mm.
And so I'm not trying to make, excuses. I'm not trying to make excuses for maybe the lack of responsiveness or the slowness with which that responsiveness might take place. But as I mentioned early in this discussion here this evening, the interview process alone can take weeks, if not months, for a number of jobs, for many types of positions. The organizations are just wanting to make sure that the match is as spot on as they can get it. They're trying to find the proverbial unicorn
Mm.
so often, or the purple squirrel. You just don't, they're hard to find.
Right.
But companies will keep pushing the envelope until they think that they've exhausted all the avenues.
Mm. Okay.
And so, as tips, this is where I mentioned trying to use LinkedIn, Alumni Finder tool, the Bantam Career Network, Facebook, Instagram, and one tip is is potentially, even though you may not have a direct connection with somebody that is hiring, or a talent acquisition or an HR specialist, you may know somebody who's a second level LinkedIn connection to the person that you're trying to reach. What you can do is, or what you might try is, ask the person that you're connected to, who is connected to the person that you ultimately want to reach, and ask them if they would be receptive to making a virtual introduction. So, there's just those little ways to try to break down the barrier
Mm.
in order to actually reach somebody that you can have a conversation with, or at the very least exchange an email.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
And then there's the tried and true old school technique. If you go to sometimes if you go to a company's website and you go to the press release page, they will give an email of the public relations officer or the public relations manager. And that will give you a potential tip off to the the email address structure within the company. And then you can just try the person that you're trying to reach. You can try to use their name with that email address structure and write them a cold call email. Of course, giving them proper context, how you found how you came to email them, why you're emailing, and give the proper context so that they at least have a chance to decide if they're going to reply to you.
Mm.
Doesn't mean that they're going to reply, but these are just some of the things that you can try to do to sort of knock down those barriers that more and more organizations seem to have erected over the years by using application tracking systems.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Okay. One final question we have here from Michael Gilman. Do you use Myers-Briggs at all?
We don't use it at the Career and Life Design Center. I've done Myers-Briggs myself, but we use or we have what I would call kind of a poor man's version of Myers-Briggs, and so we will do those assessments with students. I have not had the occasion to do one with an alumnus yet or an alumna yet, but we do have, I don't want to call it a similar tool, but we've got a Myers-Briggs type indicator like tool that we've got in the Career and Life Design Center.
Mhm. Okay, fabulous. Okay, great. Listen, do see that we are at 8:01. Paul, thank you very, very much. Just a wonderful overview of this resource that is available to all Trinity College alums and, of course, current students to take advantage of. And as things change, it's great to know that there's a Trinity College resource there that is there to support people. So thank you very much, Paul. Really appreciate that.
Oh, you're very welcome. My pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me, and I'm more than happy to stick around if anybody wants to ask more questions. I'm more than happy to hang out.
Oh, great. Thank you. And going to turn it over to Carmen.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. I hope you enjoyed the programming. Thank you, Paul and Matt, for tonight's program. And everyone, have a good evening.